Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
I'm good. Are you in Toronto?
I am, yes.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in my apartment. I have a studio, so life is almost normal, except for, seeing my friends and everything.
It's been an interesting time for artists because on one side of things, there's never been like more opportunities to like put yourself out there. I've seen constant live streams and constant new videos and constant like Zoom collaborations going on. But one thing we've also been talking about is that the pressure that that puts on artists. So like, where have you found yourself in the being creative, being freaked out continuum?
Well, to be honest, because my record came out last week, I've been in a little bit of a whirlwind. So I haven't had that much time recently to kind of think about the anxiety and stress associated with what's going on right now. But exactly, I mean, it's just been live stream after live stream DJ set after live stream interview. I feel like I've become like a live streaming tech genius in the background. So, because it's quite, it requires a lot, a lot of preparation.
I know I'm in my living room right now. I'm normally a radio host, and all I have to do is sit in front of a microphone and go, "Isn't that interesting?" And instead, like I've become like a media company.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. But luckily, I have like 10 years worth of stage design in my basement. So I've been able to just like hang up my backdrops, put up my like stage flames, and just kind of like do as much as I can to make it not always look like my boring apartment.
Did you create your backdrop? Like, tell me about that.
This backdrop is so this is from my album Olympia, my second record, and we collaborated with the Chinese opera. They loaned us their backdrop to take photos in front of, and then we had it reproduced like with a, backdrop making company or whatever to bring on stage. And this, and it's just been in my basement for like 7 years. I'm like, what am I ever going to do with this? So here it is. Here's the
I know
opportunity.
what a window opened when this door closed because of the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
So, not to be reductive, but what is it like to release an album in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like so much of how you perceive what's happening is on the internet anyways, that in that sense, it doesn't feel too different. It's like you post on Instagram and Facebook and you're immediately getting all this feedback, and that hasn't changed at all. I mean, the biggest difference is that I would usually be on tour right now. So I think that that is going to start to set in the coming weeks, because once you get through this like whirlwind of putting out a record in 3 weeks when I'm not on the road, it'll be kind of like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Like how do I keep like promoting this record as I usually would?
I think like I try to be optimistic. I mean, this is just me, and think that it's a nice time for art to come out because we have the time to listen to a record front to back, to watch a film
Mhm.
front to back, something that we don't typically have time for. But you're right. And we need to also consider that these albums come part and parcel with typically movement, with touring, with connecting
Mhm.
with people who like the record.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's also an interesting opportunity to not do that because that's just something that I've done. This is my fourth record, so that it'll be the fourth time I would have put out a record and immediately gone on tour for 2 years. But now I'm basically putting out a record and immediately going back into the studio because I don't really have, I'm not touring. So what else am I going to do? And so that's kind of interesting to start writing again, having literally just released something. So I'm curious to see kind of what comes out of that.
Katie, am I on to something that this record is perhaps more introspective than the past records?
Yeah, definitely. This record is it's probably the most I guess it's the most personal record. And the lyrics are like quite I kind of forget what the word is, but I just want to say blatant or something. They're quite direct.
Or Candid or something?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, Only as much as you want to tell me, but like, how so?
Well, lyrics for me have been a bit of a journey, to be honest. In the beginning, I like my first record, I just didn't care about lyrics. I didn't think about them. I would kind of say whatever was said. And throughout my career of making records, they've slowly started to have more importance for me. Part of that was because I recognized they were important to everybody else in the world. Um, and so my last record, Future Politics, I put a lot of work into the lyrics, but it was very much about like the outside world and about, well, politics, obviously. And with this record, I guess putting out a record like Future Politics made me really question kind of the role of an artist when you're talking about politics and when you're talking about activism. And one of the things I was thinking a lot about is how musicians and artists in general have this power to kind of connect with people on an emotional level and to be vulnerable with people, and how that kind of allowing people reminding people how to kind of be in touch with their own humanity and their own vulnerabilities, I think is a very powerful and important tool to have. And I sort of approached this record thinking like that. I very much wanted this record to be vulnerable, and I wanted to have that connection with people, and I felt like it was the right time for me and the right time, in terms of what we're all going through in the world even before the pandemic.
What I find interesting about that is that oftentimes when I would hear someone say they wrote about the end of a relationship, or even just they wrote vulnerable, introspective lyrics, it would largely be like, and if the audience gets it, I don't really care, but I just kind of needed to get this stuff out. I do find it
Mhm.
interesting that you consider the audience relating to it. Like you consider the audience taking it in kind of from the get-go.
Yeah, well, I think that I spent a lot of time listening to music that I found very healing and inspirational, and it did a lot for me personally, and I just wanted to be able to kind of offer that as well to people. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a conscious decision to make something that is much more vulnerable than anything I've really done before.
Do you think that's changed your music going forward?
Um, I th I think maybe. I just feel like now that I've been doing this for some time, I just feel like much more of a kind of well-rounded artist, I guess I would say. Like in the beginning, as I was saying, I didn't really consider myself a lyricist. I didn't really consider myself like an artist, but now, being an indie musician for so long, you're kind of put in all of these different shoes all the time. So now I'm constantly like art directing the project, and I'm writing lyrics, I'm producing, I'm writing music. I'm, helping with the videos. I'm just in charge of like all these different aspects of the project I never imagined myself ever doing. And so, yeah, I think in that sense, being more confident in all of these roles, it'll definitely inform future records and future projects I take on. Just feeling like I have, the ability to access sort of these different disciplines and sort of put them all together.
Katie, if I'm not mistaken, the song we're going to hear is recorded by you and the band, and everyone's kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my drummer, Victoria Smith, is currently in the UK. We were rehearsing there in March when I flew home mid-March because of the pandemic, with my bass player slash backing vocalist, Cecile Believe, who is now, she lives in LA, but she's currently living with her family in Victoria, BC. So we're kind of on like, we're a few thousand kilometers away from each other. And yeah, we were able to kind of put this recording together.
But is that challenging? Is that challenging as a artist to have collaborators be far away from you?
Not really. I mean, because of the internet. Well, it depends what kind of collaboration. I mean, it's definitely possible to collaborate. Like, of course, I
Yeah.
really miss being able to be in a room with somebody, and especially my band. Just being able to be in a room with my band and just play together is something I really, really miss. And it's just you cannot recreate it in a digital sense at all. But I mean, recording this way, recording long distance is kind of just its own thing. It's like fulfilling in different ways and kind of cool in different ways because like they record their bits and I don't get to hear them until they're finished. So they're sending me kind of these like finished products and it's like a little present or something that you get.
Well, I'm excited you did it. What song are you going to do for us?
So we're gonna do Anyways, which is the first track on my record, HiRUDiN.
Tell me about it.
Anyways, it's the first track on the record, but it's actually the last track I wrote for the album. And it's a track that I feel like is sort of about the moment where you know the relationship is over and ending and you're terrified. It's just a little bit chaotic. You know, you're in this place where you just can't imagine how you could possibly go on without your significant other. But I think at the same time, there's this sort of like optimistic side of it as well. Cause, you know, it talks about how the world keeps turning, how the mountains keep rising. And I think that in a sense, there's something comforting about the fact that like life goes on, essentially.
Katie, not to be too personal, but does it change the stakes of writing a song when someone specific could hear it and hear it about them?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, you know, as Lord says, what does she say? What is that quote? I bet you rue the day you kissed a writer in the dark. I think that if you're going to date a musician or you're going to date somebody that writes, then you're probably going to get a song written about you. And I think even if it's like a mean song or a bad song, I think it still feels really good to have a song written about you. So I don't think anybody I've ever written music about has ever been upset about it.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, it's always nice to be on the good side of the love songs, but you know, I guess you take
Yeah.
being on the breakup songs too. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Katie, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Katie, that was incredible. Do you want to do a pretend throw to another song?
Sure, we can do Mountain Baby.
Okay. So, Katie, you're going to do a song for us, sort of long distance. What's it going to be?
So I'm going to do Mountain Baby.
Tell me about Mountain Baby.
Mountain Baby is the most kind of collaborative track on my record. HiRUDiN, it features a kids choir, which are students from the school in Toronto, Wilkinson Public School, where my mom is a teacher. It features a guest vocalist, Cecile Believe, who is going to be performing from Victoria. And yeah, and I worked on this song with a bunch of different people, and it kind of came together over the period of about a year. And it's kind of a really weird pop song.
So hold on. It features a kids choir that your mom teaches at the school. How did that happen?
So my mom is a teacher, and I told her I wanted kids for a recording. And so she contacted the music teacher at her school, which is this woman, Batya Levy. And Batya Levy put out sort of just a call to all the students in the school asking if they wanted to participate in this recording. And I was looking for maybe 3 or 4 kids, and 25 kids responded. And she was like, "Can they just all come?" And I said yes. And I think about 12 ended up showing up to the actual recording. So we had 12 kids in the studio. And yeah, they were amazing. They learned the part in advance. We did it super quickly in less than an hour. We had a pizza party after, and it was perfect.
What was that like for you? It must have been beautiful.
It was beautiful. And the thing that was really cool about it, which I didn't even notice, is that it just so happened that all the kids that came were girls. And everybody working in the studio that day was a woman. You know, the
Hmm.
engineer, the producers, and me, and everybody. And so these young girls, you know, between the age of like 8 and 11, their first experience in a music studio was with 100% women. And actually, the parents were the ones who pointed that out. And I just think, you know, because it's generally it's a very male dominated industry, but I think to have this group of kids come in and this be their first experience in a studio is probably, you know, will probably affect the way they think about the industry for the rest of their lives, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, we can only hope so. Hey, thank you, Katie.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.